Hi everyone, welcome back. Now before we get this review over with, I just want to display something real quick. Yes, I know about the controversy about the new Ghostbusters trailer being the most disliked trailer on YouTube. I know about the fact that Sony is saying if you don't like Ghostbusters then you're sexist. I know about all that stuff, but here's the thing. I'm not jumping on any bandwagons for this review. I'm not judging this movie just to promote propaganda. I'm not publishing this review just so I can get feminists to attack me. I am judging this as a movie. If you seem to hate Ghostbusters then that's fine. If you seem to like Ghostbusters then that's okay. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy my review of the reboot/remake of the 2016 Ghostbusters. Being called a sexist, dishonest reviewer, the hardest thing about film criticism is separating out the appraisals about the business side of movies from the artistic side, endeavoring as best to keep the appraisals about the less than admirable people and the frequently less than noble process of all the making of film with the film itself. Sometimes though, some of those factors just can't be avoided, particularly in what has gone wrong with the finished movie is so clearly tied and focused to the business of making it. Case in point, 2016 Ghostbusters, a rancid, unfunny, terrible, stiflingly inept, torturous to sit through piece of crap whose only second of its unforgivably long running time feels like the worst kind of soulless, passionless, commercially focused corporate filmmaking. Here we have a film that exists not because someone really wanted to tell a story or bring a beloved character to life, or even because they thought there would be a huge profit in it, but in order to fill out a balance sheet. The Sony Corporation is obliged to keep the Ghostbusters franchise alive with a company called Ghost Corps, and starting the series over with a newer, cheaper set of actors and an obedient director was the quickest way for them to do so. Calling this filmmaking by committee is doing disservice to the idea of committees. This is filmmaking by accountants, shareholders, stockbrokers. But to be fair, good things can be salvaged out of these circumstances. I mean, look at Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Creed, Star Wars, and X-Men First Class. But where those movies has been blessed to revitalize franchise with great directing and a good screenplay, 2016 Ghostbusters is poisoned by a lethal dose of ineptitude, unfunny comedy, laziness, and terrible decision-making. These female Ghostbusters can sure bust ghosts, but they can't bust the laws of Murphy. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. The only thing that saves it from being a devastating, catastrophic disaster like Batman v Superman is that it's too boring and has too little ambition for anyone to stay angry at it for very long. The story in this movie centers around Aaron Gilbert, played by Kristen Wiig, and Abby Yates, played by Melissa McCarthy. And they have been friends for a really long time and have been investigating paranormal activity for years. Eventually, they begin to make a book about their paranormal. But since the book became a failure and it wasn't able to sell any more copies, Aaron Gilbert decides to work elsewhere at the Columbia University, so that way she can work as a professor and leave all the paranormal stuff with Abby Yates behind. But then, as she realized the book is still being sold online, she asks Abby to take it down, but only if you investigate paranormal with my sidekick played by Kate McKinnon as Holtzman. So they see a paranormal ghost for the first time in years, and these girls are so excited that they found the ghost. But unfortunately, Abby Yates decides to post that video online, which leads them to both getting fired from the universities they work at, because nobody believes them. So they decide to build their own company involving paranormal activity. So they go to a Chinese restaurant as their base, they hire a secretary who's actually kind of a doofus but is also handsome at the same time, played by Chris Hemsworth, and they're building ghostbusting equipment as time goes by. Leslie Jones eventually joins the team because she saw paranormal activity going down in the subway area, and since she knows most of New York than anyone else in the group, she's officially assigned to the Ghostbusters team. But unbeknownst to them, a villain named Rowan is about to summon ghosts to unleash the fourth cataclysm, which is basically summoning a bunch of ghosts causing an apocalypse to destroy all of New York. And so it is up to the Ghostbusters to stop Rowan and to save New York. Not that the plot is a bad idea, although it takes about 30 minutes of Adam Sandler inspired and executed comedy before most of the ghostbusting stuff kicks in. Taking the time to establish characters and creating a new story that went along with the 1984 Ghostbusters would have been actually the smart way to go. Unfortunately, neither of those things actually happen. Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon are all really talented comedians in real life, but whatever talent they possess is being exacerbated by bad direction and an awful script, which actually turns their characters into either overacting cartoons or one-note cliched stereotypes. Basically what the script does is that they make all these four women not the guys from the cartoon and not the guys from the original 1984 movie. All the other side characters are basically one note as well, and while Sony points at men and says, oh, well, if you don't like this movie, you're sexist, it's kind of funny because this movie constantly jabs at men the whole time in the movie. Depending on the scene, they're either stupid, incompetent in their job, weird, annoying, jerks, any of the male stereotypes you can list, this movie has it. The comedy they play out in this film is horrifically unfunny, with really forced and awkward jokes throughout. And some of these jokes you can even see coming a mile away. No, really, the first major joke in this entire movie is about queefs. Yeah. Even worse, someone in the studio thought it would be a great idea to add cameos as part of their jokes. And all the fan service and the cameos that are presented in this movie is executed terribly. There are cameos in this movie that are characters from the original film, and how they're used are horrible. I was speechless at that point. How do you screw that up? And also in this movie, there is a bit of fan service as a post-credit scene in this movie, which the film teases as a grand mystery for the new Ghostbusters to find out who the next villain is, which if the movie gods have any benevolence left, we surely won't even have to see. Having Ghostbusters in there, busting ghosts and spewing out great lines? Who needs that when there's so much fan service, cameos, and pop culture references yet to spew out? You notice how we haven't talked about a villain, Rowan, yet, and that's because there really is nothing to talk about. Just like the female Ghostbusters, the awful screenplay has no idea who to make Rowan out to be other than a guy being bullied his whole life. And while the film is too busy being focused on its awful jokes, its horrible humor, and its pathetic attempts at world building, he's made to act out the most cliched supervillain arc possible. An early hint that they're positioning Rowan as an anti-hero who's being a social outcast from society because he's weird, and basically turning into the ghost makes you just as powerful as Zool all of a sudden, with motives that aren't explained, with powers that aren't explained at all. Then at the end of the movie basically turns him into a giant CGI cartoon monster who wants to destroy all of New York because the film literally has no idea what this character is supposed to be about other than to have the film raise some stakes for a badly staged final action sequence. Speaking of which, the whole Enterprise looks terrible. The CGI ghost looks about as fake as the Scorpion King and the Gary Oldman monster from the end of Lost in Space, and most of the action scenes are shot in a poorly composited green screen room just to basically add blue neon crap at the screen. I haven't seen a movie with so much money in it look this cheap and shoddy. The action scenes are almost a saving grace, with the ghost busting scenes being a far better improvement from the original. It's just too bad that these four women aren't out there to do anything interesting. Even worse, the film breaks the rule of ghost busting to begin with in its final climax. Like in the original movie, the Ghostbusters don't even kill ghosts, they just encapsulate it in a capsule to make sure that they won't escape all around to attack New York. Even though the Ghostbusters in this movie bust one ghost in the entire movie and having them escaped for a badly staged joke, and they're executing their shots perfectly when they're shooting ghosts all of a sudden. So like basically in your first day of ghostbusting, you were bad at first, but now automatically your perfect shots a day later? Gee. Which leads to a big, huge, epic climax that's supposed to be as amazing and inspiring as the cross-stream scene from the original Ghostbusters, but instead plays out as literally the worst thing that has ever happened in a Ghostbusters movie. 2016 Ghostbusters isn't the worst movie I have seen or will see this year, but it's hard to imagine one more contemptible. This is the kind of movie that has no respect for the material that's based on, or the audience is hoping to appear before. It's a riskless, artless, meaningless endeavor that exists only on the premise that even the laziest Ghostbusters movie can still turn a profit simply by being a Ghostbusters movie. I like to think that calculation's wrong. I love to see this worthless heap bomb as hard as heavy it deserves to, maybe teaching Hollywood a lesson about taking an audience for granted in the process, but that probably won't happen. All I can do is sit here and tell you, to the potential members of that audience, that the new Ghostbusters sucks. And as a movie lover and a movie critic right now, I'm really wanting to have 80s remakes just stop already. We got lucky with some movies, but you know what? Sometimes classics are good to be kept alone. What's more horrifying than this movie? The fact that the Magnificent Seven and Ben-Hur are getting remade. The freaking horror. Alright guys, that is my review of 2016 Ghostbusters. Comment below, let me know what you thought about the movie. Find me on Facebook, Google+, probably miss me on YouTube if you feel like it. My name is Luke Nukem, and you, my friends, have been blown away.